At the start of the story, we see a prison in Siberia where many German soldiers were standing in line. After World War II ended, Russia captured a lot of German soldiers and forced them to work in the coal mines day and night. The prison did not have strict security, but still, no one tried to escape because it was surrounded by endless snow, and the nearest human settlement was 14,000 kilometers away. So, even if someone escaped, they would freeze to death in the harsh Siberian winter. The prison was built in the middle of thousands of kilometers of snow, which made escaping impossible. But among all these prisoners, there was one man who was very clever. His name was Clemens Forell, and he wanted to escape so he could return to his wife and daughter. He was given a 25-year sentence in this prison, but Clemens did not want to waste half of his life here. He was determined to escape at any cost. Then one day, Clemens finally got a chance to escape. He climbed onto a coal freight train. When he saw the stars shining in the open sky outside the prison, he felt very happy, but his happiness did not last long. After traveling a short distance, the train stopped. When Clemens looked outside, a Russian soldier was standing there with a gun. Clemens was caught and taken back. As punishment, he was locked in an open-air cell. The freezing cold and the night rain made his condition even worse. And this was not just for a few hours. Clemens was kept there for 2 full days. On the morning after the second day, the prison warden came, opened the cell, and let him out. He did not torture Clemens at all. Instead, he simply said, "Your comrades are eagerly waiting for you." When Clemens went to meet his fellow prisoners, he saw all of them waiting with sticks and rods. They were very angry at him because they had been kept hungry for the last 2 days due to his escape attempt. At that moment, Clemens understood why the warden had said that his comrades were waiting for him. As soon as they saw him, the other prisoners attacked and beat him badly. He was so badly injured that he had to be taken to the prison hospital. The prison doctor, who was also a German prisoner, treated him. When Clemens regained consciousness, he told the doctor, "I want to escape again, and I need your help." The doctor was shocked at Clemens's courage. Even after so much suffering, he still refused to give up. The doctor told him that escaping this prison alive was almost impossible, and even if he managed to escape, he would probably die in the freezing cold. But the truth was, if Clemens stayed in the prison, he would also die. The coal mines had a high amount of carbon, which entered the body through breathing and caused deadly diseases like cancer. So the doctor told Clemens that he must try to escape one last time. He gave Clemens all his warm clothes, shoes, and other necessary items. He also told him that Russian soldiers often hid food near the railway tracks. Finally, he gave Clemens a gun for protection. The doctor had already collected all this equipment because he too had once planned to escape from the prison. But a week earlier, he found out that he had cancer and only about a month left to live. He gave Clemens a lunchbox and said, "If you survive, please deliver this lunchbox to my family and tell them that I am no longer alive." Once again, Clemens escaped in the dark of night. But this time, instead of boarding a freight train, he decided to walk. He walked all night, afraid that Russian soldiers might catch him. When the warden heard that Clemens had escaped, he immediately went to the doctor's room to question him. But before the warden could reach him, the doctor had taken his own life because he knew the warden would torture him to death for helping Clemens. The warden then ordered several Russian soldiers to search for Clemens and bring him back alive. But even after many days of searching, they could not find him. Luckily for Clemens, snowfall had already started, which covered his footprints and made it impossible for the soldiers to track him. Most people believed he had already frozen to death in the cold, but the warden wasn't convinced. He knew Clemens was strong and wouldn't give up so easily, so he ordered the search to continue. Meanwhile, Clemens was struggling through the heavy snowstorm. 9 days after his escape, he suddenly heard dogs barking. When he turned around, he saw a sled coming toward him. Before he could react, the sled stopped beside him. She climbed onto it, and it sped away. But then Clemens woke up. It had only been a dream. In reality, he had been walking for 9 days straight, and now all his food was gone. Hunger and exhaustion made every step difficult, but Clemens refused to give up and kept moving forward. After a few more days, his body couldn't handle it anymore, and he collapsed from hunger. Hours later, when he regained consciousness, he heard a strange sound nearby. Looking around, he saw a seal, and his eyes lit up with hope. He quickly took out his gun and tried to shoot, but because of weakness and tiredness, he missed. The seal started to run away. After so many days of struggle, Clemens couldn't let this chance of survival escape. He ran after the seal, but while running, the ice broke beneath him, and he fell into the freezing water, injuring his leg. Even with the injury, he kept chasing the seal. When he aimed again, the seal hid behind a rock. Clemens moved further and spotted it once more. Just before it could slip into the water, he fired his last bullet. This time, he was lucky. The shot hit. Clemens was overjoyed. At last, he had food to survive his journey. After many days, he finally ate properly, regained some strength, and then continued on his way. Now, on this long journey, Clemens was completely alone, surrounded by endless snow. The loneliness and harsh environment could have broken him mentally. To stay strong, he often talked to himself and used positive thoughts to motivate himself to keep moving. He also carefully checked his route again and again, using his compass to make sure he didn't get lost in the snowy valley. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. After walking continuously for 2 months, Clemens finally saw a small tree on the snowy plain. Seeing the tree, he felt as happy as if he had found treasure. He ran to hug it. This tree was a sign that after 2 months of non-stop walking, he had finally crossed the endless snowy plain and was now near the forest. After walking a little further, his hope came true. The forest began, and the snowy land was behind him. Clemens was filled with joy. He collected wood, lit a fire, and for the first time in months, slept peacefully. But whether the next day would be peaceful for him or not was still uncertain. Meanwhile, the warden was still searching for Clemens. He ordered his soldiers to look for him within a 500-kilometer area. As Clemens walked through the forest, a sudden blizzard hit. The storm was so powerful that even huge trees were torn out by their roots. While Clemens tried to move forward, a giant tree fell directly on him. Fortunately, that evening, two men searching for gold happened to pass by. They spotted him under the tree and saved his life just in time. After that, the three of them traveled together. After several days of walking, they finally came out of the icy plains. On their way, they reached a river. To cross it, they built a wooden boat. While crossing, they talked and shared stories from their childhood. But suddenly, the river's current grew stronger, and the boat started shaking. One of the men lost his balance, fell into the water, and began to drown because he couldn't swim. Seeing this, Clemens quickly jumped into the river, pulled him out, and saved his life. Meanwhile, their other companion abandoned them and continued alone. That man was very greedy. Believing that Clemens and his friend had died, he took his friend's gold for himself. Later, when Clemens and the rescued man reached the tent, the man became very angry and shot his companion, killing him. Clemens and the surviving man then gathered their belongings and continued their journey. They walked for several months, hoping to find a human settlement. But winter returned, and the forests were covered in thick snow. The man's luggage was very heavy, making it hard to walk through the snow. Seeing this, Clemens offered to carry some of his belongings to help, but the man didn't trust him. He thought Clemens might steal his gold, so he attacked Clemens and pushed him down, leaving him unconscious. When Clemens woke up, he saw a pack of wolves approaching him. To save himself, he tried to climb a tree, but a wolf grabbed his leg, and the tree, which was weak, broke. Clemens fell to the ground, thinking he was going to die. Suddenly, he heard a gunshot. When he opened his eyes, he saw that some wolves were dead, and the rest had run away. Local hunters had arrived and saved his life. The hunters took Clemens to their village, where the villagers cared for him. After many years of struggle, Clemens had finally reached a human settlement. He was overjoyed to see people again. He stayed in the village for a few days, and the villagers treated him kindly. One day, a letter arrived from the warden himself. It said that a German soldier had escaped from the prison, and anyone who helped him would be called a traitor. Clemens had no choice but to leave the village, because if he stayed, the villagers could be punished. Before leaving, the villagers gave him food and a hunting dog. Now Clemens had a companion on his journey, and he no longer felt alone. They walked together for several days. On the way, they saw a woodworking factory, and the dog ran toward it looking for food. Clemens went inside to get his dog. The workers recognized him and took him to the factory owner. Clemens told his story to the owner, who felt sorry for him. They fed him and put him on a train to Germany. Clemens was happy, thinking he would soon be home. But he didn't know that the factory owner had informed the warden about him. The warden was waiting at the train station with soldiers. Before reaching the station, Clemens saw Russian soldiers from a distance. He jumped off the train at the first chance. Unfortunately, the soldiers saw him and started chasing him. He ran quickly across the train tracks. Suddenly, the warden appeared out of nowhere. Clemens's heart sank, thinking all his years of struggle were wasted. Before the warden could catch him, Clemens's dog attacked and bit the warden, giving Clemens a chance to escape. He ran as fast as he could, but then he heard a gunshot. When he looked back, he saw his dog had been killed. Clemens was very sad, but he didn't give up and kept running. He climbed onto a bridge, jumped onto a moving train, and escaped the warden once again. Days passed, and Clemens slowly continued his journey. By 1952, it had been 7 years since he escaped from prison. He was in Central Asia, walking through a village fair. He saw many kinds of food and felt very hungry, but he had no money, so he controlled himself and moved on. Then he noticed two girls selling pancakes at the fair. He wanted to eat, but he didn't have a single penny. Feeling sad, he walked on. But one of the girls felt sorry for him and broke off a piece of pancake to give him. At first, Clemens felt a little embarrassed, but then he thanked the girls and ate the pancake. A Jewish man at the fair had seen everything. Clemens later went to a church, and the man followed him there. The man had also been a prisoner before, so he didn't turn Clemens over to the police. Instead, he tried to help him. The man took Clemens to his home, where Clemens shaved for the first time in many years. The man also gave him a new passport so he could cross the Russian border and go to Germany. Clemens was very grateful to him. Before leaving, Clemens thanked the man and set off for the Russia-Germany border. A few weeks later, he reached the border and showed his passport to a Russian policeman. Clemens was worried that the policeman might recognize him or notice the fake passport, but luckily, that didn't happen. The policeman let Clemens cross the border safely. Clemens was so happy that he couldn't stop laughing. At last, he reached the bridge, which would take him into his home country, Germany. But when he was halfway across, a bright light shone in his eyes. When he looked, he saw the warden standing in front of him. Looking back, Clemens realized he was still on Russian land, which meant the warden could still arrest him. His heart sank, thinking all his years of struggle might be wasted. Then something unexpected happened. The warden stepped aside and let him pass. At first, Clemens couldn't believe it, but he moved forward anyway. The warden was impressed by Clemens's courage and determination to survive. He didn't arrest trust him and let him return safely to his home country. Before Clemens left, the warden said, "This fight was only between two soldiers, me and you won. Now go live your life." Finally, Clemens crossed the border and reached his home country, Germany. He went to his home and saw his wife and daughter. After a short while, they left the house to go to church, and Clemens followed them. He didn't call out to his daughter yet, hoping she would recognize him one day. When she looked back, she saw her father and ran to hug him. His wife was overjoyed to see Clemens alive after so many years. At last, the three of them embraced each other. And with this, the film, based on a true story, comes to an end. I hope you enjoyed today's story.